Evening and good whatever, wherever you are in this lovely wide world. I hope you're all doing well and you're very welcome to another episode of the Soft and System Side to Sales, where myself and my good friend Jason talk all the different angles and elements and areas that we need to consider when we're building a fantastic sales process. So today we're going to talk about the sales manager's role. So, hello, Jason. How are you
Hey,
doing this evening?
very good.
Busy day.
Yeah, ironically enough, I've just finished a manager's training program and straight on to talking about sales managers. So it's a continuation on, and I think there's going to be a quite a rich conversation here because there's so many different areas depending on the type of company that you're in, whether you're a startup or whether you're an established SME or whether you're a corporate. So different aspects to your sales manager's role, but fundamentally is to help and motivate your team get more revenue and support them. But that all changes.
Oh, it does, Jason. And I would like to say one very controversial point right now, right?
Yeah.
And I know you Google everywhere, you'll see organizational structures everywhere. You'll see the word manager. I
Yeah.
despise the word manager. I don't like it, never did. I don't like what it stands for because if you think of the word manage, it says manage things,
Yep.
manage the
Tutorial.
status quo. Don't do anything
Debate.
crazy. Don't go above and beyond. Don't upset the boat and just keep things ticking over. So I don't like what it represents. So I always talk about leading and championing. Now, you could have a situation where you're going to have sales directors, depending on, as you said, the size of the company. You could have a director, you could have a manager, you could have multiple managers with multiple teams, right? But we're talking about the managerial element. And as I said, I believe the first thing that we need to consider is a redefinition of the sales manager's term. Now, I don't think we have time to go into the whole reason for that because we want to talk about the activities, Jason. We want to talk about what should that sales leader do with their teams. So you mentioned the elements of leading and making sure that their teams are motivated, right? I believe that's a really big element because
Massive.
the sales role, they get 95% of the time they get the shut door in their face, they get
Yep.
the phone slammed down on them, they get no, right? So they need to keep being brought back up. It's like taking a shower, Jason. A shower only lasts so long. Motivation is the same. You need to keep your teams highly motivated,
Yep.
highly engaged, and in total belief of the journey you're trying to achieve with them. You're supposed to do it together. So you all have to be in it together.
Absolutely. It is a cohesive team and they should be gelled together. The point that I was going to say before we got on to that was in some companies, and I think this is completely wrong, is you're a salesperson, you're a sales professional, you do really well and you're flying with your numbers and all that. And the directors look at you and go, oh, you'll make an excellent manager. What a mistake that is. It is absolutely the worst mistake you could ever make is the high flyer, the top person out there. They might not necessarily be the right person for a job as a sales person, manager, leader, or whatever you might want to call them, because it could be someone else within the team that could have those core skills of, a leader. They're collaborative. They work with each other. They give people advice. they help and shadow other people. There's lots of different facets around this, but might not necessarily be those people that are absolutely killing it on the sales floor and doing whatever needs to be done. And all of a sudden they want to go, I want to be a manager. But really their ego is taking them away because they just work as an individual. They probably might not work as a team. And I know we've spoken about that before. So what are the attributes of a leader? I think we need to sort of step back and filter out what the actual leader might actually look like and how they can actually use and utilize their skills to help enable their sellers to sell at the most effective rate possible by motivation, by coaching. Another area that we need to discuss in a few moments, because I think that's vital, but not every leader is a coach either. So, that goes into another realm and another area of what makes a leader exceptional at what they do. So there's lots of different facets around there.
There is, Jason. And what I'm going to say something really cheesy right now. They need
no, don't say anything cheesy, please.
They need to master this and get their teams to master the soft and the systems side to sales, because they need to have those really strong touch points when they talk to their potential clients and their existing clients. But they need to have a strong process behind it. And the role for me as the leader, everything that you've talked about, Jason, about that encouragement, motivation, everything, but they also need to build that culture of really good customer first problem solving approach, along with making sure we're getting the right data. We have the right process, so then we can measure the process by measuring the data, so we can then
Someone just put into the chat, that's cheesy. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, cheesy. Thanks, Juliet. Totally cheesy. But they have to master this. They have to build that culture of getting data, because, Jason, at the end of the month, like at the end of the day, Jason, you do your monthly meetings and then all of a sudden you didn't meet your targets. Oh my God, what do you do? I believe a big role of the leader is to be able to mitigate that all the way through by reacting in real time, being proactive about what you think you should do, and then reactive when it's not working, and tweak it and change it until it does. And you can only do that by gathering really good data, and the people on the ground, their team members, need to do that. So I believe the leader has to really inspire that process, both the soft and system side. I really do.
So a bit in there, and I do agree with you, the soft and system side to sales is essential. So everyone has some really wonderful skills. So you as a leader is to look at everyone's skill sets and go, well, let's bring that to the table within the meeting. Like, we have a meeting for numbers. We talk about KPIs and OKRs and whatever else separately, but the other meetings should be essential for growth, should be essential for learning, should be essential for sharing and collaborating. Get the other team members to present what worked well, how it worked well for them in those particular situations. Get them to present in front of the team. So this is my findings. This is what I've done. The guys that are high flying, I'm sure their egos want to go, well, I'd love to share what I do. Hopefully they would, if they're in the organization, and to share the best parts of it. So we all work as a team. So the leader should go, well, John, Joseph, or whoever, would you mind presenting this area this week? And I'd love you to spend like 30 minutes on this to present the best practices of what you do really exceptional well. So we can model that behavior, so we can all learn and grow, and we can all level up and collaborate in the best way that we possibly can. I think that's one particular area of a leader going, well, I don't know it all. So step back and let someone else stand forward that knows something else that you don't. That's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Jason. And I'm going to tell a story here. And it was during a project I did before. And it's about getting the best, as you said, out of your teams, right? And like traditionally, sales reps and salespeople are like very sort of individualistic, right? They do their own things their own way because that's the way they know. And what I try to inspire with the groups I work with is to create a sort of one best way. Now, it's never I'm not talking about precision, Jason, like you would in a manufacturing process, but really get the best out of your teams, get them to share their knowledge, what works for them, and then what works for someone else, because eventually you're
Mm.
going to get all this lovely information that people know what works for them. And how do you build that into a process, Jason, then, so everybody's taking the best of everyone, they're all helping each other
Yeah.
to do that. And again, this is something I believe that the leader, the sales leader, has to draw out of their team so they're getting the best bang for the buck. And then obviously within that, Jason, knowing the key strengths of their team, like
Mm.
knowing what's the best place. And like, and I'm not saying there's a one size fits all, because there's not, but maybe some people are better at closing, maybe some people are better at like building documentation, the sales documentation, the proposals, Jason, or
Yeah.
some people are better doing the inquiry process. Can you then maybe create a process where they all share that along the road, so they don't, not one person does it all, if they're not, if they're weak on some sides, getting the best. And I'm not saying that's the right approach for everyone, but how do you get the best out of people in
Yeah.
your team? Where should they be fitted?
Yeah, I totally concur with you on there, because some people are good hunters, but they're not necessarily good closers. Some people are
Mm.
analytical. Some people are very analytical, so they're good at doing the presentations or putting the decks together when they are presenting. So there should be maybe a tag team approach.
Mm.
In some companies, they have the hunters, and then they have the strategic people in the middle to work out the market. They might work out other areas of what the client actually needs to make that granular information so it's presentable in front of the client. And then you get the guy that's actually the wonderful presenter and closer. But every company is slightly different, so you have to get the best strengths out of the right
Mm.
people all the time. Something else I was going to suggest is, in order for you to do that, and over time you're going to find that, but I always find a disc profile is a brilliant
Mm.
thing to really analyze, number one, you as a leader, and find out what your strengths are. Maybe have a look at your weaknesses, or the Myers-Briggs, or there are thousands of assessment tools like that. Just there's loads of sales assessment tools that I've seen that you can go, well, you're really good at this, you're really good at that, but maybe not so good at that. And even in your teams, it's a guide. It's a guide that's going, well, okay, your behaviors and your attitudes is more like that and less like that. So let's work with you on that area. So I think that's a really good core thing to do with your team and get the results. And let's say this is the best way that I can help you develop you so you're better at your job. And this is my job as a leader here, to support you, make you better, make more revenue, make you more commissions so you can buy
Mm.
your dream house, or whatever it might be that you're connecting your passion to your purpose to your dream.
No, totally. And that's exactly it, Jason. And the next point I was going to share onto that, which complements what you said, is about having those shared values, those shared wins, those shared gains. Like, so when the company wins, they win too, and vice versa. So make sure there's shared values and shared goals to make sure they're aligned. And I believe, like, this is a lot of the stuff we're talking about is relevant to many different aspects and many different types of teams and business. But Jason, I'll tell you one thing, from all my experience, I believe that it's more important in sales to get this right. The whole business hangs on the sales team, and it's not, everybody thinks sales is easy, and I'll tell you now, Jason,
It's
it
not.
is damn hard work. It is really hard, and it's not good enough to leave someone just go out in the cold, hire somebody, and no matter how good they are, Jason, and just leave them go and expect results. No, that's not the way. And I've had situations in the past where I've had team, like a sales leader, going to let go someone they had on like a probation for their for whatever, I think it was 6 months that they had. And they headhunted that person, they were going to bring them in, they had great success in a different industry, and they thought they'd just go, yeah, brilliant. And I call that, well, you've got the ostrich syndrome. You put your head in the sand and just assume they would do the same results. But like, what did you do to support them in your industry with your process? Oh, we don't have a process.
Yeah.
So I said, well, like, before you blame, I always have this saying, train them before you blame them. Train
Yeah.
them your best way of doing sales. And if you don't have that, build it, and I'll help you build it with you, because you can't just assume people can go out and do it. And that's just the system side, James, or
Mm.
sorry, Jason. But also then how do
James,
you
by the way.
that was a roll of the tongue, Jason, right? And but it's so important to build that. And like I always believe, and I know salespeople are not structured, but the more like I like softly structured you can get them, the
Yeah.
better they'll work together. And I always talk about building. If I have a sales leader and go like, if you had a green field now and you were building your team, what are the different elements that you would put there to ensure you're giving it the best foot forward to ensure it can deliver?
Mm. Just a point on there. Not every leader is a trainer. Not every leader is a coach.
Yep.
It takes a skill to train people, not to tell people. If you're telling people, like if you're in sales, if you tell people, telling isn't selling. I make that quite clear. Something that I learned many years ago from a mentor of mine is telling isn't selling, because otherwise it just goes over people's heads. When you coach people, you ask them lots of strategic questions as you would as a salesperson. There's lots of different models out there to get the best out of people. Ask them a question, you listen, get them to find out what challenges that they have. Ask another question. You're there is not to advise. When you're mentoring, you're sitting beside them while they're making a call, or they're going through the deck, or they're looking through the technology to find out the best way to do whatever they need to do with whatever they're selling, whether it's a SaaS product or a physical product or whatever it might be. Your job there is to do the best that you can as a mentor. But sometimes when you tell people, it's a slightly different scenario. Maybe that's more mentoring. But training is to really pull out the best out of them, like we both do, to get them to learn, develop, practice, try, and then speak to a client, and then modify that afterwards, and then help them develop further, and then coach them as much as you can. But make sure whoever that leader is acquire those skills, because they're essential for your customers. They're essential for your team to go further. And that's my piece of advice for any managers out there, any sales managers, any sales leaders out there. Learn to coach. You will get dividends no end out of that, because then all of a sudden your team will just start to think about the areas of where they need support, what challenges they are, but also internalize things as well.
Yeah, but that's so true, Jason, because like when you're inducting someone into a new team, right, Jason? What I always like to do, I'll do an assessment on the person. So they're going in to do a certain set of procedures or processes, and they're responsible for a certain set of procedures. So I will look about, well, what's their skill sets today? What are they strong at that's relevant to their processes? What are they not strong at? Where do they need help now? It's not just giving them the one size fits all training. It's about coaching them in their gaps where they're really important. As you said, it's not just here's some training material, here's something I'm going to dictate to you, but how do you then make sure they learn? And you learn by doing, Jason. So you read a bit, you talk a bit, you share a bit, but then you have to go do a bit and go do a lot, and then continually review what are you doing and is it what you need to do, and having that like shadow. So say if you're first going out to your first set of potential customers, shadowing somebody first of all who's an expert in their field, tried and tested, and then having someone shadow you for your first few meetings to ensure you're getting the message and getting it done. So then you go, because the more you help them, Jason, the better they will be for you, because people like to be helped, and then they will help you by getting you sales. It's a synergistic, it's reciprocity in action. Like it's about getting all these angles. It's a team thing. As you said rightly, it's about making sure that they collaborate well, and the more you help them, the more, and it goes back to simple principles. The more you help them, they'll help you and your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one other touch point as well is depending on the type of company that you are, at least it goes in what we are saying is some managers, some leaders sell as well.
Mm,
I know when I was doing it a few years back, is I was selling. I had a target to do. Then I had a team target as well. So
mm.
the it does depend on the size of the organization. If you're a smaller organization, probably will work. But the challenge is you're not supporting your team in the way that you should be because you're defocused on trying to get revenue in yourself, but then supporting your team and all of that. So in the slightly larger organizations, your main focus is on the team. The more the team sells, the better it is for you, whether you'll get commission based on the team's performance, or you get a bonus, or you get something incentivized for you to help and support your team get better results, then it works for you. But if you're actively selling and you're eager salesperson as well, like we all are, and we want to sell as well, but there's a fine balance, and it does depend on the type of team that you have and the organization. I've seen both sides of it, and it does depend on the
Yeah.
product, the service, the culture, the market, and so on and so forth.
But that's a really good call out, Jason, because when I had my own small business, I had hired two salespeople initially, and then they had people working for them. But even when they had people working from them, people only ever wanted to talk to me,
Yeah.
Jason, because I was doing some media work at the time. I was doing like a podcast a very long time ago before it was practically called podcast, but people related to me with the brand. So
Mm,
people just wanted, so my team would get the leads and I would go in to close them. So even though I tried to step back, I was brought back in. But and that's okay, Jason. Once you define that into the strategy for the
yeah.
business, sometimes the sell is stronger when it comes from the business leader itself, not just the
Yeah.
sales leader. So you're right. It's a really important call out to know what are the responsibilities along that chain. So
Mm.
Jason, we're coming up on time.
Yep.
Okay. So for if we were just to boil it down to one piece of
You do
advice,
that again, don't you?
I know, and we can never just keep it to one, can we? But
No.
1.5, right? I'll allow you 1.5 pieces of advice, Jason.
Uh, oh, there's so many different areas that we've already discussed. Maybe learn how to step back a little bit and to help your team succeed results by motivating them and coaching and training them. But there's lots of different areas in that. But learn how to be the best that you can be to help support your team.
Yeah, brilliant. My point, Jason, and it is only one, is learn how to get them to collaborate well, work together to make it better. Because I've seen it. If you take them away from being individualistic and working to team, when you get those synergies and sweet spots, they are amazing together. That's my piece of advice. And I'd like to thank our guest that joined us today. And we'll be back next week for another episode with the soft and system side to sales. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Jason, as always.
Take
Bye.
care.